if this continues, I'm going to take my life. I can't do this anymore. I know I said I wouldn't, but you've got to give me something like, why did you take away my ability to have children? Why am I going through this? I just feel like all you wanted me to do is suffer. And that's when I had my second near-death experience.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors and ideators so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, when we do engage, most of us are not very good at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations, and hopefully better conversations, in large part to help more people in more places, hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. Our email is hello@suicidenoted.com, and I'd love to talk with you. You can check the show's description to learn more about supporting the podcast. There are a few different ways. Big thanks to Keith, Scott, and Courtney for helping us out with a financial contribution. Thanks very much. Other things you can find there in the About section: volunteering with us, launching your own podcast, joining the support group, how you can leave us an audio message or reach out to us or follow us on social media, all that stuff. That should be quite easy to find. If you listen on Apple, we would appreciate a rating or review. If you listen on Spotify, the same. And you can check out our polls. We've been doing that for a couple of months now. Past polls, which you can still reply to, include the following questions. Have you lost anyone to suicide? Does God exist? Have you ever been bullied? Who knows about your suicide attempt? If that applies, of course. Do you have anyone to talk to that you trust about feeling suicidal? We've got a couple questions on how love and suicide and survival overlap or intersect. So would love your thoughts or feedback on that. Feel free to reach out for any reason. Finally, we are talking about suicide on this podcast, and my guests and I don't typically hold back. So please take that into account before you listen or as you listen, but I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today I am talking with Marci. Marci lives in Utah, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Hi, Marci.
How are you?
I am doing okay. How are you?
Not great. I'm on hospice right now, so getting worse and worse. I wanted to do this before I got worse, so.
I really appreciate that. And we're not only talking about suicide, or we're talking about suicide, but you are in a category, for lack of a better word, of people that I don't think I've spoken to very often, in that you have I guess we're all terminal, but you have a terminal illness and you are dying.
Right. I am dying, and I am on hospice for the third time. Yes.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, how do you know about me or this?
I was listening to you on YouTube. Oh, he needs to hear my story.
When are you dying?
I haven't eaten or drank anything in about 5 days, except for Jell-O. They usually say within a couple of weeks, your body can't maintain that. So probably within a few weeks. I have gastroparesis. I don't know if you know what that is. Paralysis of the GI tract caused by a botched appendectomy. I had 15 surgeries on my abdominals, and that one just did me in. And so I couldn't keep food or drink down for 3 years.
You're in Utah?
Yes, I am in Ogden, Utah.
Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from Canada. I'm LDS, and I went to BYU. I didn't like Canada, the cold. So I moved to Utah when I was 18 and went to BYU. I didn't really know what I wanted to study. Wish I would have figured that out now, because now I wish I would have just been an English teacher and a writer. And then about a couple of years later, I went on an LDS mission. Salt Lake City, Temple Square. Yeah, and I loved it. It was great. And then I went to California, San Bernardino. They send us out to the field for a couple months. So I went up there, and then I came home and I moved to California because I loved it so much for about 10 years. And I was a personal trainer.
Up until that point, and now I think you're in your 20s, life is kind of decent.
Life was great.
Okay.
No sicknesses. I loved my life. I was dating. I was having a blast.
Before we get into more of the story, and I want to hear all of it, you said you have several attempts. When was the first attempt?
Okay, so 29, I found out I had endometriosis very, very badly. So I was going in for surgery after surgery for 6 months for 5 years. My doctor told me, I just don't think kids are in the cards for you. And I've always wanted to be a mom. So I had to have a hysterectomy. So that broke me.
I would say more than half of the people I talk to, we spend time in the childhood, in the teen years. This isn't really going to be that.
No, this is
Yeah.
more going from the 30s till now.
Your first attempt, how old were you?
My first attempt, I was 34 years old, just had my hysterectomy. I went back to my apartment. My friends came over and I asked them, the guys, would you ever adopt? And they're like, no way, I want my own kids. And I'm like, well, I'm screwed, right? Who's ever going to want me? Like, I just felt so broken and I felt like my whole womanhood had been taken away because all I'd ever wanted to be is a mom. All I ever wanted to be was a wife. And I just was like, God, what have you done to me? And so I was so angry at God. And I was very, very devout. But in my heart, I was so angry at him. Started snowballing into me leaving the church.
As we speak now, do you believe in God?
Absolutely. After what I've been through, I have no doubt that there's a God.
Okay, so tell me about your first attempt.
I said, I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to take my life. This is my first attempt. I had my pain pills that the doctor had given me. I text my brother thinking he's not going to get this text, in time to save me. There's no way no one's going to save me. I have this bottle of pills and I'm ready to just take them all. So I sent a text to my brother and I said, I'm done. I can't do this. So he knew what I meant by that. Sitting on my bed in like a haze, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to keep living this way either. I was just absolutely broken. And so I just said, God, please forgive me, but I'm going to do it. Unbeknownst to me, my brother had texted my sister and said, do you think this text is real? And she said, oh yeah, she just had a hysterectomy. We have to get over there. She's going to do it. So he lived pretty close to me. So he got in his car and he raced over to my apartment. And I had the bottle of pills in my hand. I was ready to just gulp them all. And he came in quick as a cat, grabbed the bottle of pills and just grabbed me and hugged me. He saved me.
Did you at that time want to be saved?
No, I was mad at him. I said, why did you do that? I want to die. He said, we don't want you to die. I'm calling mom and dad. This is my first suicide attempt. You can only imagine what my parents and family thought. And they said, she's moving in with us. We're not letting her out of our sight. And see, I was never really close to my parents growing up. So that was a really good healing time for me. So we got really close and there's 8 of us. So I was like an only child. We sat up and watched movies. We talked about like old times. So I lived with him for about 5 years.
Okay.
And my dad said, I think it would be really good if you got in school and went into nursing because you would be a great nurse, because you have so much empathy for everything that you had to go through. Enrolled in school, started my prerequisites in nursing, but I started to miss dating. I was wanting to get married and I met this guy at this dance and we just hit it off. We went out for 3 months and I thought we talked about marriage. We talked about all these things. And I thought he was my Prince Charming because I was so scared to tell him I couldn't have children. And he told me, that's okay. We can adopt. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's my dream guy. This is my dream guy. But then I started noticing that he was in contact with another girl because I'd see these texts on his phone. And I'd say, who is that you're talking to? And he finally told me it was his ex-girlfriend. And I'm like, why are you in contact with your ex-girlfriend? And he said, she's my best friend, And I said, well, you're dating me. It's me or her. So he lied to me and he said, I will never see her again. But he was cheating on me. Everyone knew he was cheating on me because I wanted to get married in the temple, in our temple. I didn't want to have sexual relations with anyone but my husband. And especially after that bad experience with my last ex. So he just kept pushing me to like have sex. So we messed up. and I was freaking out. So I broke up with him.
What do you mean you messed up? What does that mean?
Like, we almost had sex. I don't know how to describe it. I just felt like, what did I do, right? This is the only guy that wants me, that will adopt kids. As we just were becoming friends and started dating again, we ended up having sex. So then things got really dicey. And he was very addicted to porn. And he literally just treated me like his little porn doll. It was really bad. So the second attempt, I got very sick with pancreatitis. I was in the hospital all the time. I had a very good job at Utah Valley Hospital as a CNA, and, working towards my nursing. And I just kept getting sick. And I was just so frustrated. And I was living with my sister, who was a millionaire, and she wanted me to home sit her old house so she could move into her mansion. I just felt so lonely. Like, I just remember going into her bathroom and just seeing all these beautiful things that she had and thinking, I'm never going to have this. How am I ever going to have this when I keep getting sick? I keep having this financial bankrupt, everything. And the thing that set it off is my little niece was getting married. So I was done. I tried my second attempt. I got some pills again. I took the pills this time. I immediately just felt like, whoa, like I text my brother. And this time, all I said was, I'm going to take my life, but I just want you to know that I love you and I love the family. I just wanted to say goodbye. That's it. He got the text and called my sister. And I heard my sisters and my nieces out there shouting at the top of their lungs, Marci, open the door, open the door, open the door, open the door. And I wasn't going to go to the door. I was like, no, I'm going. I'm done. They wouldn't stop. So I finally opened the door and they just grabbed me and hugged me and said, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're okay. And my sister said, you're coming to my house. I'm not letting you out of my sight.
This is similar in many ways. Pills, we've got texting, we've got family, we've got people coming in your home, we've got people you going back to their homes. There's a lot of similarities. You go and you stay with your sister.
Mm-hmm. So I go
And
stay with my sister. And then all of a sudden, I was sitting on the couch and I literally just slumped off the couch and my whole body just went numb. She wanted to take me to the ER and I said, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to the ER. So she said, okay, then just come to my house and I'll watch you. But then when she saw me slump out of my chair, she said, I'm taking you to the hospital. So they immediately put an IV in. The doctor comes in and then he had a social worker come in and she goes, Marci, what's going on? And I told her about Troy. I told him about all my health issues, just all the things that I'd been through. And it felt so nice to finally talk to somebody about it because I had not been able to, with my family because they just didn't understand. Other thing is my nieces kept having babies and babies. My sisters had babies and babies. And here I wasn't able to have babies. And I was just like, this just isn't fair. So I'm in the hospital. The social worker comes in and she goes, do you want to die? And I said, yes, I want to die. Let me die. I want to die. And she goes, you need to go to a psych ward and be evaluated. And you need to get into a support group and you need to talk to a psychiatrist. Scariest thing ever. The security come, put me on this stretcher, strap me in. And my sister said, you had no hope in your eyes. And she said, you just were like blank, like you were just gone. It just scared me. So I went to a psych ward for 5 days. Hated it. And if you say you're suicidal, they'll just keep you in there. I learned the trick and I said, I'll just fake it and act like I'm not suicidal so I can get the heck out of here. So I started telling them in our little meetings, nope, I'm not suicidal. Nope, I'm not suicidal. By doing that, it changed my attitude. So I started to get more involved in the groups and I started listening to these people who had all this trauma and thinking, wow, I'm not the only one. There's people out there just like me, like this one nurse. There's nurses and doctors and pharmacists. I couldn't believe they were just normal people. Some people were crazy, and the crazy part, I made friends with these people. It was just so therapeutic that I needed.
Mm.
I started enjoying it. I started enjoying going to the meetings and hanging out with these friends and hearing their stories and hearing a nurse say, "Yeah, I almost took my life because of my divorce. It was so horrible." And another guy saying, "I tried to take all these pills, but it didn't work. And so I just ended up throwing up." Like I just heard all their different stories. You're kind of like in a pool with people who get you.
Okay, good, good. I want to know before we move on. I know you found me on YouTube. I actually don't know why you want to talk. I know you're not going to be alive for that much longer. It sounds like, but that doesn't mean people are in that position. They don't usually or necessarily want to talk about it, talk with me about it, have other people hear it. So I'm just wondering why
Because my book will still be on Amazon when I pass away.
you're using me,
No,
Marcy.
no, no. I'm not using you. I want people to
Okay.
know if I can just make them aware, like you said, you lost your friend to suicide.
Hmm.
That must have been horrible.
Not great. Anyway, I was just kidding about you using me. I'm glad you're here. I know you're still in the hospital. Things are going pretty well, but, and I digress completely here. Is that blue nail polish that I see or lavender? What do we got?
Yeah, it's my blue nail polish.
But Marcy's got, she's got blue nail polish. All right, cool. It's just worth noting sometimes. Not
It's
everything
my
has.
favorite nail polish. Everyone says I have really nice like hands and nails, so I just like to keep them nice and
Yeah. Not
whatever.
everything on this podcast has to be entirely or explicitly about suicide. We talk about nails. All right. So you after 5 days you get out of the hospital?
So 5 days when they thought that felt like, okay, she's ready to come out, went back to my parents' house. I
Yeah.
was dating this douchebag still. Things were escalating and he was taking me from my family, from my friends. You know how, narcissists are and just scumbags. Anyway, my dad got sick with a fatal disease and he was dying. So that kind of changed everything up. And I started spending more time with my dad than with this guy. And it started helping me kind of feel a little bit better about myself. And because my dad could not stand him, he felt like he was a leech to my body. He wants to take a gun and he wanted to shoot his little, seriously, like he did not like him.
Marcy, you have not had luck with men, it sounds like.
I didn't have luck with men when I left the church. When I was in the church, I had good luck with men, but when I left the church, I just attracted the
Mm,
douches. So I'm at school and I get a call from my brother that my dad's not breathing well and he's dying. And I leave my final, I rush over to the house. I stayed with him the entire time. I did not leave his side. I was like, I am going to make up for it. I am going to be with him. We all got to say goodbye to him, all 8 of us on the phone or in person. And
mm.
I held his hand and I just whispered in his ear. I said, "Dad, I'm so lost. Please help me." And he squeezed my hand right before he passed. I couldn't sleep for 5 days. I
Mm.
was a mess. By the way, I left my faith at this time. I said, "Well, God, what good have you done for me? You took away my ability to have children." I was just so angry. So
Yeah.
6 years, I left my faith. I completely left. I didn't pray. I didn't even believe in God. Went completely atheist. For
Yeah.
someone who's Christian and
Right.
then you don't believe in God at all, it is dark. And because I wasn't talking to God, I just had my dad. So I would talk to him all the time, like, "Dad, oh my gosh, please be with me. I'm so sad today," things like that. And I would feel his presence. One night with my ex-boyfriend, my boyfriend, he tried to rape me. And it was the scariest thing ever. Like, I've never been so scared. So I was done. I was like, I have to get away from this guy. So I just shouted out to my dad and I said, "Dad, please help me get away from him. I'm not strong enough." And I'm not kidding you. I literally felt a presence around me for an entire week. Like he was haunting me. Like he wanted to like warn me, about something. So I just got on my knees real quick. I'm not kidding you. I heard his voice as clear as day. Text him and end it now. So I text him. I told him, "I don't want to marry you. I don't want to be with you. You're just using me. We're just not right for each other. And you're keeping me from the person I'm supposed to be with. Don't ever contact me again. I'm blocking your number." And I blocked his number. So he couldn't even respond. And I never talked to him since. And I have never been happier.
So at what point do you get into the space where you try again?
I came back to my faith through a hospice lady. I felt my dad and I felt some angels, and that was kind of like a really cool story. So I came back to church and I thought everything would be wonderful, right? Here I'm back in the church and I'm with God again, I'm a good Christian. I'm living very virtuous again, trying to work towards getting married in the temple to a good guy. I got very, very sick for an entire year. I could not keep anything down. I was throwing up. I had to go to get infusions because I was so dehydrated and they could not find out what was wrong with me. That's the hardest part. So they put like a tube in your arm and I had that threaded in for an entire year. So I was beyond depressed. So my dad wasn't there, to help out my mom. So my mom was so overwhelmed and it was Christmas time. And I told her, Mom, I'm suicidal. She said, Marci, I can't deal with this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is too much without your dad. So she went on a vacation to Mexico and left me. And I was supposed to work at Christmas Day, but they called me off. So I was alone on Christmas, sick, and I went, that's it. I'm taking my life. I'm done. So I told God, you've given me too much. I can't do this. So this time I took all the pills.
You text anyone?
I texted nobody because I didn't want to go back to the psych ward. So I took all the pills. I was getting like just hazy, like just feeling floaty and like barely being able to feel my body. And all of a sudden, I like saw this kind of like light sort of coming towards me. I heard this voice and I knew it was my dad. And he said, Don't. My gosh. And then I got a text from my sister and she said, I love you. I hope you're doing okay. And that text and hearing that voice from my dad was enough for me to call 911 and save myself. But I was going. By the time they got me in the hospital, they said she overdosed on drugs. I think they gave me some charcoal, if I remember this time, gave me IV fluids right away. They tried to counteract the drug. But I was going. I
Mm-hmm.
literally felt myself just floating like off the bed. Like I was not even in my body. I mean, when you take that many pills, and I'd waited almost 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent me to the psych ward again. Same thing, met some friends, but a psychologist told me, do you know you have ADHD? And I was like, no. And he goes, that's kind of an important thing because it's really hard for some kids, and back in the day, they didn't know how to treat it. Because I always like kind of had a hard time in school, with concentrating and with teachers and stuff. And they would tell you, oh, you're dumb.
Yeah, I wonder how common that is. Wow. So what happens when you get out of the psych unit?
My mom was livid when she got
Oh,
back
yeah.
because she had to come home from her vacation. We had a three-way with me, my mom, and the psychiatrist. And she was like, I want to keep her in there longer. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Mom, she said, how do I know she's not going to do it again? This is her third attempt. So my family was just beside themselves at this point. And I was just like, Mom, I'm not going to do it again. She goes, how do I know that? After I finally got out of the psych ward, my mom was supposed to be taking care of me. My brothers would check in with me every night to make sure how I was doing. They would kind of stepped up because my dad wasn't there. They were great, but it wasn't the same as having my dad. I really missed my dad like a lot because we had gotten
Yeah.
so close.
So I want to understand second hospital stay, third attempt, you're back home. Are you still suicidal at that point?
Yes, these were pretty close together. So my fourth one was literally within 6 months later. And my mom was scared that she would come home and find me dead. Like she was so, freaking out. So I waited for my mom to leave because I was just done. I was still getting sick, having all these issues, these surgeries, and I was just freaking done. I'm like, this is not a life. If this is why God wants me, I felt like I didn't have a purpose. That's the biggest thing I think people need to know from all of this. I didn't feel like I had a purpose because when you're not even able to be a mom, had that taken away and you're just having all this health problems and it's hard for you to date. I had like my friends, that I always had, but then the financial burden, losing jobs, losing dream jobs, it was just too much. So I waited for my mom to leave. And I had it in my mind, I'm doing it. I'm not going to not go through with this time. I went into the garage, I closed the door, and I closed the door to my door, and I turned on the ignition.
Oh, new method. Okay.
New method. Then they'll just find me in the car and I'll be all good. Didn't text anyone, didn't tell anyone, got in the car. 30 minutes went by and I was just like, my head was just like in a daze. And I just was feeling like, wow, I could like really kind of go soon. I all of a sudden felt my dad right like next to me, just right there in the car with me. And I just like, Dad, I can't do this anymore. I can't be sick. I was just crying. And he said, hang in there. It's going to get better. And
Mm.
I just believed my dad. You know, he was a very trustworthy person. You know, he's on this other side, seeing all these things, and I trusted him. So I got out of the car. I literally crawled to the sofa, and I passed out. And I never told anyone about my fourth suicide attempt.
So the other ones people knew. They found out because of the book. Okay.
Yeah.
A question about keeping things private. This conversation, I know you're in a different place, and we're going to go back and fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
You know, I know you're in hospice. I know you haven't eaten and drunk water in a while.
It's okay. This is giving me, I don't know how to explain it.
Does anybody know that we're talking right now?
Yes, my family, I've told them that
Oh.
I was going to go on this podcast. I've told a few friends,
Mm-hmm.
but not like a lot of people. I haven't told like the whole world or anything.
And then you were sharing, so you didn't die. You stopped yourself. Your dad stepped in again for suicide attempt number 4. And from then till more or less a decade later, till now, you said,
Mhm. I did a fifth suicide attempt.
oh, okay.
So I moved to Costa Mesa, which was just beautiful. I wanted to be in the tropics. I wanted to just run, you know, and just be free and just love life. So I got a really good job, like a dream job. It was great. I was healthy for probably a good year. I moved in with a guy and I took care of his mom as a live-in CNA and he paid me very well. He let me use the car. I took her out, you know, because she was this 90-year-old woman who just wanted to go, you know, like she had dementia. So I took care of her for about 3 months and I fell in love with the family and they fell in love with me. It was just beautiful. Then I get sick again. So
Mm.
this is what happened. They found a tumor in my breast. I had to go have surgery. And it wasn't cancerous, thank goodness, but it was so small that they had to dig down so far deep. So I had a hematoma. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a bruise in the incision. So I was in excruciating pain. Went back to the hospital. My surgeon had to treat it in his office with a syringe. Oh, just kill me now, please. I was in so much pain. So I was getting through that. And then 2 weeks later, my appendix burst and I had to go back to the hospital and some random doctor came in and did the surgery. So those two surgeries together, my surgeon said it just was too much on my body. And that's what he think caused the gastroparesis. He think they severed a vagus nerve when they went in there and they paralyzed my GI tract. Because then I could not keep anything down for 3 years. And this wonderful man, oh my goodness, he's a Christian and he just took me in as his family. He said, you took care of my mom, so we're going to take care of you. And I don't want you to die. He took me to the emergency room. I mean, he was just like, bro, like a big brother. And it was during COVID. So my family couldn't be with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really lonely time. I couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't want to tell anyone. So again, I did the pills. But as soon as I took them, I regretted it.
Interesting. So what was different about this time?
I don't know. I think because I was so close to him and I didn't want him to find my body, you know, I just felt that would be so disrespectful. I was just like, I don't want to die. You know what I mean? I really don't want to die. I just want my pain to end. This time I called 911 myself again and saved myself. And the doctor comes in and I tried to downplay it. Like I hadn't taken very many, but he's not stupid.
Mm.
And he said, this is your what attempt. He goes, we're putting you right back in the psych ward. Because see, I didn't want to go to a psych ward. That's why I didn't want to call 911. The person that I was staying with, he didn't even know. I couldn't contact him. They take away your phones. And so he somehow found out and he came to visit me. And that meant so much to me. I was just like, wow, you're just such an amazing person. He didn't make me feel bad about it. He didn't drill me about it. But my
Mhm.
sister, she's like, I can't save you. And that's when I told her, no, you can't. I have to save myself. And she said, I'm just afraid one day I'm going to get a call and you're going to be dead. And then I remembered all the things my brothers had said. My brother told me, I know I'd step in front of a train for you if anything ever happened to you. My other brother said, it feels like you really did it and we're mourning you. You know, he's like, you have no idea how I would feel if you took your life. So I started this having all this kind of, when I did decide, and I just was like, I can't do this to Jim, this guy, and I can't do this to my families. That was my fifth suicide attempt. I went back to the psych ward again, and then I was done. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate these psych wards.
And I remember from your email that you said it was shortly after this that you had an accident, that you had a fall and you were taken to the hospital, right?
I heard them say, we're losing her. Her temperature is going up to 100 and it was 103, 104. She's having a seizure. And then bam, I'm not kidding you. I left my body. I didn't feel any more pain. Nothing. I didn't hear the voices anymore. I was like floating and I saw this beautiful butterfly, just humongous. And it opened up to this mystical world, just like here, only more beautiful. And the colors and the clarity were like anything in this world. And there was animals and little children singing, and there was valleys and mountains. And then I saw this light coming towards me, and I knew it was Jesus. And he asked me if I wanted to go, and I heard his voice, and I said, yes, I want to go. And he said, you need to finish your book. And then bam, I was back in my body again. And I felt all the pains. And the doctor comes in and he said, you are like a new woman. We almost lost you. But this time I had died and then came back. After that near death experience, I never tried again because I had a second one and a third one.
A second and third near-death experience. Okay.
But I kept getting sick. I wasn't getting better. And so I told God, I said, if this continues, I'm going to take my life. I can't do this anymore. I know I said I wouldn't, but you've got to give me something. You've got to give me something like, why did you take away my ability to have children? Why am I going through this? Like, I just feel like all you wanted me to do is suffer. And that's when I had my second near-death experience. I was in my room. I went to feel my heart. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack. And I wasn't in my body at all. I was floating like the speed of light. It was like a 3D movie that you see because you can see in the front and to the side, but you can't see in the back. And then I started seeing all of these mansions and I saw this gold paved road and I saw these marble steps and I saw the pearly gates. And I was like, what? Am I dead? Because I'm seeing more than I saw last time. I saw this light coming towards me and he had on a hood and a robe and I knew it was Jesus. And he spoke to me, but you don't speak with your lips, you speak with your mind. It's incredible. And your mind is so keen. And then I saw this little girl in the mansion and I knew that was my little girl. And I didn't know if I was going to adopt her in this life. I thought I was going to adopt her in this life. That's what I thought. Because I didn't think I was going to die. I didn't know I was going to die. I said, well, I want to stay in heaven with you. I don't want to go back. So I thought that God was sending me back from heaven to get married, have kids, like finally get everything that my heart's desire. But then the disease came back in May of 2024. And then I was just like, what? Like, this isn't part of the plan. I just knew I was only supposed to come back for a short time.
Hang on one sec, Marci. Question. When did you publish your first book?
2023, December.
How long did it take you to write the book?
3 years.
Okay, that's a lot of work. What's the name of the book?
Just passing through on my way to heaven.
You're going to be going to heaven?
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited to see both him and my dad.
I was going to ask you earlier on how you feel about dying, but I think you kind of just answered it.
I'm not scared at all.
Mm-hmm.
I've had 3 near-death experiences where I've gone to heaven, and it's way
Right.
better than here. Like, the
Mhm.
love and the light that you feel over there is something I can't even describe, that you'll never, ever feel here. And when I published my book, it was the happiest day of my life. People were
Great.
telling me how they were renewing their faith in Christ, how this one girl sent that email and said she was going to commit suicide, but if I could do it, she could do it. And I mean, I was just in tears. So this is what I had wanted my whole life, was to just be a writer. And that
Yeah.
brought so much confidence to me when I published my book and wrote
And
it.
your book is a memoir.
Right. And it's my legacy because I don't have children, I don't have a husband. So I'm leaving it behind for people to still read when I'm gone.
And they'll also have this podcast episode if people find it too, which is cool.
Yeah.
Other than ADHD, did you ever get a diagnosis you think is correct? Anything else?
No, just they said I had really bad anxiety, which comes with ADHD. I mean, they said I had a depressive disorder, but duh, I'm going to have that with going through what I'm going through. But when I wasn't going through that, I wasn't depressed. The only time I was ever depressed and suicidal is when I was having health problems. Other than that, I was pretty stable of a person.
Always ask this question, and I am almost sure, given everything you've shared, I know the answer, but I will ask it anyway. That is the pink and purple pill question, which is I give you a pill right now. You take it, you go to sleep. There's absolutely no pain. You die, and nobody knows it's a suicide. You're in a kind of unique situation here, I know. What would you do with that pill?
I'd throw it out.
Very clear, no questions. Okay, throw it out. And you're in hospice somewhere in Utah near your home?
Yes, I'm in hospice in a nursing home in Ogden.
What, if anything, helps you feel a little better each day?
Jesus and my dad, because the sicker you get, the closer you feel to the veil. I'm so ready to go. You have no idea.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was the last thing that I was supposed to do before I went.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always ask about myths or misconceptions with respect to, for you, it can be suicide or tempting or faith, and that you want to dispel and say, no, no, no. You all that are listening, I think you kind of have it wrong.
Suicide is not selfish. That is a myth.
All right. Suicide is not selfish. What do you want people to say about you, whether it's at your funeral or an epitaph, or do you care about that?
Oh, yeah. I have my funeral all planned out. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be an interesting funeral because, sometimes you just have family talk, but only have a few family members talking, and the rest are people who have read my book, who I've just gotten close to through being in the nursing home. I think I want people to know that I never gave up. Even though I tried 5 suicide attempts, but something inside of me said, I don't want to go that way. That's not how I want to go. It's been hard. Like, I was kind of a little mad at God because my life was going so great and well finally. So I was just like, why? Why now? And I just felt like that my time was done, that I had done the work that he'd sent me back to do. And now I'm talking to you. And I really feel like this is the last thing that I'm supposed to do.
Kind of interesting to hear that it just happened to be and turned out that I'm the person. Wow. So thank you very much.
I'm honored to meet you. Like, seriously, I feel so blessed that I was able to do this.
When I say goodbye to you, it is goodbye.
Yeah.
Death is part of all this stuff, whether it's suicide or natural or anything else. So I suppose the thing that's on my mind most, other than thanking you, is just to hope that as you pass and you make your way up to heaven, there's no pain, minimal pain. And given that it sounds like that's pretty soon, do you want me to bump this episode up so it comes out really soon?
I would love that because my family would like to listen to it and friends.
Do you want to be alive to hear it?
I would love to be alive to hear it. That would be a dream.
What's the amount of time I'm working with here?
3 weeks, probably 2 to 3 weeks. It's
What?
so much more valuable when you actually can hear it, hear the person, like their voice. It's different when you actually hear the story than if you would just like read it. And I'm hoping that people will read my book from it, and it will just help people.
You're in a good place, and that's what else can you ask for?
Yeah, I am. I know. When you're not suicidal anymore, what more can you ask for, right? When you've been suicidal.
That's a memoir title. When you're not suicidal anymore, what else can you ask?
Because
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of your probably people are still suicidal and still thinking about it. I don't think about it anymore. Like you said, if you gave me that pill, I would throw it in the garbage. I'd be like, nope, that's not how I'm going to go.
Just put it in like aluminum foil so someone doesn't accidentally see it and take,
Right, right. But I honestly can tell you in my heart, and I want people to know this, if they're not getting the help that they need and they just feel, I do not judge anyone because that's a hard life.
Yeah, you said it interestingly. Yeah, people need support, but at the end of the day, you got to save yourself.
Exactly. If you don't want to save yourself, then you won't.
Not you.
But not me. And I'm glad. Can you imagine if I had and I wouldn't have been able to do all these things that I've been able to do?
Well, I'm very, very glad that you were able to do them, Marci. Final words.
Heaven is real, and don't be scared to die.
Hope your night's nice and you get good rest, and I thank you again.
All right. It was so good to talk to you. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support, and special thanks to Marci in Utah. Thank you, Marci. If you are a suicide attempt survivor or ideator and you'd like to talk, please reach out. Our email is hello@suicidenoted.com. I'd love to talk with you. I really would. Check the podcast description to learn more about Suicide Noted, including our membership, the Noted Network, all kinds of ways you can support us or get involved. Of course, you can also rate and review this podcast on Apple or Spotify. It really helps people find it, and we want more people to find it. So thank you for that. And that is all for episode number 264. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I will talk to you soon.